Butterfly remember. There you are, sitting across from your soon-to-be ex-lover in a schnitzel house, somewhere in the backwoods of the Bavarian forest, pretending to read a menu that you don't understand. You're trying hard not to think about the fact that you still have 3 days left of traveling together in a van all across the German countryside, or that your stomach always knew this trip was a bad idea, even though the message never made it all the way up. And you can't look up. No matter how looming the extinction of this relationship, you can't look up from the dingy, plastic-coated menu because you know that if you do, your eyes are going to try and dissect him. Somehow, if you rearrange his features, everything will line up and make sense again, like a get-out-of-jail-free card that might take you back to the beginning, or at least back to that day at the Gaspésie when he found a seashell shaped like a calla lily in the riverbed for you, or the time he traced your tattoo with his mouth. But you don't want to think about that with him sitting across the table and a mountain range away from you, when all getting close to someone seems to do eventually is make you more fluent in what it feels like to be apart. So when you run out of ways to look at the menu, you look up at the ceiling. You find all of the places where the wallpaper is cracked and peeling back on itself, and it reminds you of that girl from high school, the one who started out beautiful but kept getting skinnier and skinnier like a butterfly in reverse. And every time you saw her in the hallway, you wanted to shout, "Stop! You're unraveling. Turn around." That's what this feels like. Like the butterfly, like the wallpaper, you are unraveling. You are coming apart like a sweater, a thread pulled and frayed edges built and built until it is like a snowball tumbling down a mountain, until there is no room, no breath, and no direction to go in except towards the big pile of yarn and tattoo moments and seashell necklaces that lie with your heart on the floor. But now is not the time. Here, in the middle of a conversation whose highlights have included the spelling of Wiener Schnitzel and the potential love lives of the locals in relation to Lederhosen, now is not the time to try and figure out what went wrong. So you sit, surreptitiously tracing the outlines of his beautiful face onto a napkin with your finger, and in spite of everything you thought you wanted, shed the last layers of your connection to him, like husks. You're not sure if you're supposed to feel sad or angry or elated because right about now all you feel is unburdened. And in light of everything that your heart has just been through, you wonder if that is enough. So you look up and into the face of this person you no longer remember, trying to find something, anything that will bring you back to the end of the road that you have walked. And when you look into his eyes, you see something, and it may be relief, it may be recognition, and it may just be your imagination, but it blots out, even for a second, the peeling wallpaper, the crappy conversation, and the last 10 days of crying quietly in your sleeping bag. Because you realize this is not just about understanding how and why this sweater came unraveled. It's about finding a rhythm in the way the yarn hits the floor. Watermark. When we walk into the old pine lounge and I see that expression on your face, I realize that you are not who I think you are. You are not the person I introduced you as. Even to myself, you are not the person I talked about to loved ones. When I see your lip curl up like that, even in merriment, I realize that you are a mimeographed articulation of attributes from the boy I dated 3 years ago, the one with whom I never got anything resolved. And I can't help but wonder if he is the prologue to this relationship or if you are the epilogue to that relationship, and where exactly this information has been hiding these last 3 months. But I do this. I have this need to retrace paths already trampled by my clumsy footfalls, if only in order to be able to say, yes, I remember this. I have been here before. And I wonder what I hope to accomplish with all this clumsy navigation, circling the detritus of memories like a compass in constant rotation, charting out new beginnings until I am lost and dizzy and covered in dust. It makes me think about when I was a little girl and used to spend hours at the table drawing, head bent, upper lip chapped in concentration, forest crumpled into balls, wastepaper basket filling over with missteps, just so I could eventually be able to say, "Look, Dad, no eraser marks." How that mattered. How I wove that cadence into the sound and step of every movement that followed like a watermark beneath the surface of my thoughts. And when I think about how it has altered the course of things, like tectonic plates that shape currents from the surface of the earth, it makes me think about Thomas. And how one day when he was sitting in my lap, I realized how clear his eyes were, like undisturbed water. And it made me start to think about how careful I would have to be in order to not mark him. Because when I thought about all the marks that had been left on me and all the clumsy paths I had trodden, it made me afraid for him. And not because I would want to hurt him, but because I might not know how to not. You can't crumple up a 5-year-old boy and start over. So I tread softly. So softly, in fact, that one day I realized he might not be able to see me anymore. That you could mark somebody with your absence as loudly as you could with your force. That this vein of fear I carried around in the center of all of my movements was just a moat for all the quiet reasons that had built a wall around my heart and left me too afraid to leave any sort of mark upon the world, just in case somebody got hurt. But when I saw Thomas playing the songs and games I had taught him, I realized everything I missed out on when I was too preoccupied with the idea that I was the hero, instead of the other way around. What he showed me was that he never lost sight of me, even amidst my fears and absences, that he never lost faith in the idea that we were navigating somewhere, wherever that was. And that when someone is lost and dizzy and covered in dust, you draw their outlines in for them, even if you have to leave some eraser marks. Music box. There is a part in The Unbearable Lightness of Being where Milan Kundera talks about poetic memory, about how what you love becomes inscribed in you over time, and even though you change and grow and shed yourself, it remains with you, under your skin like DNA, like notes in a music box. And when I think about what my heart has outlined, what it has traced with its fingertips, I think about that day in the lighthouse when it felt like time slowed down and reached out for us, placed us across from each other like a matching set, like pieces on a chessboard. But time is elusive. It has woven itself into our movements. The chessboard has become cracked, and mend as we might, there is no way to replicate the discovery of experience. We know each other now. Kasparov and Karpov sitting in stalemate, neither of us quite willing to punch the clock. And it makes me think about Beethoven's Les deux notes qui s'aiment, the two notes that love each other, and how even when they're dueling, they won't let the other fall off. There was a time when that constancy was like oxygen to me, the safest part of the day and the only hours I wanted to live in. It gave me a pattern to hopscotch, red, black, red, black. I could move anywhere and it thrilled me. The endless combinations. But lately I find myself loitering around the back alley of the chessboard, or peering over the edge, toes curled, tilted towards a next I can't quite fathom, or castling myself into corners in order to contemplate which pieces of myself I will have to sacrifice in order to start over. Your silhouette from my reflection, my breath from your thoughts, the cost of check, and the loss of mate. And I wonder if you are on the other side of the board sharing these same thoughts. Because if we are going to do this, then I want it to be together, like everything else we have done. And I remember everything. How you never pushed, but leaned. How you taught me to waltz through parameters, red, black, diagonal, forward, back. But I cannot move backwards anymore, even to Beethoven, and I cannot move forward except in waltz. So we find ourselves here in the absence of movement. There is nowhere left to turn to, and already I feel the shedding of ourselves. Red, black, pieces are falling all around us, and I am scared. I am already lonely, although I am still here on the chessboard with you, holding your arm. And it hurts. I know that this is searing. It is my skin too, what blankets you, but this is not about loss. I see that too as I peer over the edge of the chessboard, trace the woven articulation of our time together, a needle and thread like chiaroscuro to draw back the curtains of our hearts. And that is the point, isn't it? To be able to move through the world like that, even in suffering, to be opened up. So walk with me to the edge of the chessboard and peer down. Consider everything that might not happen and then look up. See me looking back at you with my eyes and my heart and with everything that remembers, and listen to them say, I will not let go, even as I take my hand from your arm. And in that last second before we leap towards everything that is foreign to the both of us, I want you to listen for the cadence that surfaces every time we shed ourselves, that rises like the notes in a music box. Alarm clocks. Cities are like alarm clocks. They wake me up when I think of them over and over, like cold water on my skin. I want to do something when I think of Nairobi. Aleppo, my arms need movement when I think of Sao Paulo. There is a boqueria in the Ciutat Vieja of Barcelona that every night at 4 a.m. makes a small piece of my shin go astray. I know nobody's watching. I can't be bothered to explain how one of my shoes ended up in the surf at Sitges, how my bathing suit, sunglasses, ended up at the bottom of McLean Lake. I harbor thoughts like a fugitive. Nickels, dimes hoarded towards that next step on a plane. It's an addiction. I can show you the markings: long hair, bright eyes, unshaved legs. I went to the doctor and she told me to keep going. Said the only way to outrun a cancer is to be faster than wind. When my father came home from the hospital with a 3-month passport, we sent him to Marseille. He came home cured. There is a little man who plays chess in a hut in Nicaragua. I can take you there. I can walk you to his door. He will play you for $1 or a bottle of something. Bring the bottle. I assure you, he will share. There is a boy who lives in the mountains of British Columbia with a red, beating heart pinned to his chest. It is mine. I gave it to him. I hope that it protects him from the wind. I know about a mountaintop in Oahu where the sunrise burns brighter than liquid and people gather themselves from sleep to stand out and breathe in. You have to travel upwards to get there. You have to believe in the best of what is open to you. I can tell you about a motel in Wyoming where the crickets are as large as pancakes and the people inside live like there's no such thing as sin. I know an elder in northern Ontario who can sit still for hours, tend gardens, sun, rain, wind, moons, all defer to him. He knows about hearts and people, holds his hands careful and cupped in case anyone needs to climb in. I have a godmother in County Mayo, Ireland, who lives in a stone house but has never touched a wall in her lifetime. The paper of her heart is printed with the word generosity, generosity, generosity. A newsroom full of love instead of hungry war. I have a great uncle in old Montreal who is married to an opera singer. She is gone now, and he has mourned her for 50 years. But every night, when her records start to play, there is no one and nothing that can convince him he has been anywhere else before. I wear these thoughts, places, stories on my skin, scratch them until they were like fireworks going off, until my limbs are a living, breathing casing of everything I have learned and everywhere I have been. I am full to bursting, believe me. But there is a place on the back of my calf that has been waiting, that has been reserved. I want you to come back and fill it in.